Hey everyone, welcome to Golf Live. I'm Ryan Aselta. Well, we've turned the corner into October as the President's Cup has come to an end and the start of the new PGA Tour season is already upon us. Got a great show lined up for you this Tuesday. Jessica Marksbury sits down for a round with 2013 Masters champion, one of the most stylish men in golf, Adam Scott. SI senior writer Michael Bamberger is back for another installment of Pitch and Run. And in the light of last week's World Golf Hall of Fame induction, we've got some trivia with the newest inductees. But first, the 12th President's Cup was played this past weekend at Liberty National Golf Club in Jersey City, New Jersey, officially marking the end of the 2016-17 PGA Tour season. And not surprisingly, and as we all predicted, the United States team came out on top for the 10th time, routing the Internationals 19-11. And it begs the question, are the Americans really this good, or is the international team just underperforming? Joining me now to discuss are Golf.com's Jeff Ritter and former SI and ESPN golf writer Pharrell Evans. And guys, what do you think? 19-11, Jeff, you were there, you saw many of it. It really wasn't even as close as the 19-11 score that we ended up with. Are the Americans really this good?
They were a buzzsaw last week, so no question. It was really the perfect storm. The Internationals ran into a complete buzzsaw. The rookies, the new guys on this team that hadn't played a team event before, particularly Justin Thomas, Kevin Kisner was great too, Berger, they were awesome. And those new pairings that Captain Stricker had at his disposal, everything worked, everything clicked, and no combination, no captain's picks. There was nothing Captain Nick Price could do. The Internationals were going down last week.
Pharrell, what do you think? Americans, they win the Ryder Cup. They dominate the President's Cup. Could we be in for a long run of American golf dominance in these team events?
I think so. As I was watching it, it reminded me of the all-white team that played against the Harlem Globetrotters. I mean, there was no chance for that team over the past several days. I think one of the things that has to happen is that they have to reconsider, are they going to have this team of this hodgepodge of players from all over the world, minus Europe? Or are they going to have an all-Asian team or an all-Australian team? But they got to get some sort of continuity there and solidarity around what the President's Cup teams means for an international squad. Because right now, the U.S. team, those guys play in the Ryder Cup, President's Cup, they play every year. And every other year, you're just throwing a bunch of guys together. So they have no chance.
Yeah, Jeff, you mentioned now the Internationals didn't come together, so you look ahead to the Ryder Cup. Well, you've got all these young Americans. Their top players are really under 28. You got Spieth, Thomas, Ricky Fowler, Berger, Brooks Koepka, all under 28. When you look at the Ryder Cuppers, all these guys are getting up there. Sergio's 36, Lee Westwood is 40, Martin Keimer's 31. This could be going on for a while, can't it?
It's fun to look ahead to the Ryder Cup now, isn't it? After what we saw last week. I mean, one of the biggest problems that held the international team back was their stars didn't show up. Hideki Matsuyama had a terrible week, Jason Day, Adam Scott. With Europe at the Ryder Cup, that rarely happens, and especially on a home game like they'll have at the next Ryder Cup. So you're right, Ryan. I mean, with the U.S., this new infusion of talent, all of a sudden the youth and maybe even the energy, it feels like is on the side of the U.S., but this is what makes the Ryder Cup so great and why it's so much fun to look forward to. Europe's not going to lay down. They're going to be ready at home, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun next fall. I do think it'll be very interesting to see what happens with them entering probably as the underdog and how they're able to rally around that, and I think it's going to be another fantastic Ryder Cup. And U.S. has momentum, but that's going to be, I don't think you take a lot out of this week into the Ryder Cup because that's really its own thing.
And no question, the Europeans, they'll be bonding and trying to get that camaraderie that they've had in many years past leading forward. Nick Price, it was interesting, guys. He talked about the lack of camaraderie on that international team, and he said it happened all year. He had trouble getting his guys to play practice rounds together throughout the season. He was trying to put certain pairings together when they were playing in the same tour events, and he said the guys weren't into it. Some guys wanted to go out early, some late, some play the front nine, some play the back nine. Meanwhile, Steve Stricker was putting those pairings together for the better part of 16 months. So it makes a big difference. Jeff mentioned Hideki Matsuyama, Pharrell, a guy who just simply didn't perform. 0-2-1 in the team aspect. He comes to play on Sunday in the singles. Kind of reflective of who he is. He seems to be a very isolated player on tour. You don't see a whole lot of guys interacting with him. He's kind of his own entity. Is he a bad fit for a team event?
Well, I think, as he told Nick, his timing was off. And I think when you have such an abrupt transition with that pause, if your timing is not right, he hasn't really played well since the PGA. And I think, that whole experience there really had an impact on him. So I think he's going to be one of those players that's going to be streaky. And so I don't know. And then there's a language issue. So I don't know if that had a factor, but I think he's a guy with that golf swing. He's going to be streaky.
And Jeff, you mentioned when you're really your most talented player is playing that poorly, it sets up for a bad week altogether.
So he played poorly, and maybe they just didn't find the right partner for him this time. He clicked with Sang-Moon Bae back in Korea, and it actually, the first day and a half or so, the international team reminded me a little bit of like the mid-2000s U.S. Ryder Cup teams, where you had your star of the team, in that case was Tiger Woods, who never really brought his best game, never really fit right with the team, never found a partner. The internationals felt a little bit like that to me, at least in the first part of the week, where, if they're taking their cues from their star was just off, everything just kind of crumbled behind that.
Yeah. Well, they've adjusted the point system. They tried to make the Cup more competitive. That obviously didn't work this year, and it begs the question now, can the President's Cup be saved? For more on that, let's bring in SI senior writer Alan Shipnuck now via Skype. And Alan, you had an article on Golf.com with some interesting suggestions on how to save the President's Cup. Obviously coming from you, a little bit tongue-in-cheek in there, but overall, what is your biggest gripe with the President's Cup matches?
It's just a bad product. I mean, sporting events are not fun when the outcome is preordained. And we know the internationals are going to lose. They lose every time. It's only a question, will they keep it sort of close, or are they going to get blown out? So something needs to radically change. Otherwise, why even bother? It's just not that much fun to see the U.S. blow them out every time. And when they take the event to a far-flung place and the U.S. players a little more apathetic and jet lagged, the internationals have a chance to keep it close, like we saw 2 years ago. But in the U.S., it's just not a fair fight.
Guys, you're looking at Alan's proposals to revive the President's Cup. Anything catch your eye? You got the wives and girlfriends taking part in a contest, the ex-presidents maybe actually competing. Anything you like on the list, guys?
I like the idea of making the captains and assistant captains play. I think I would have loved to see Tiger, even at like a C player, have to play this year, or Nick Price on the other side. I mean, that would just make it a little bit more fun. But to like Alan's point, it's like preordained, and we're kind of getting at this point where the tour, God bless them, it's a contrived event as a response to the PGA of America's Ryder Cup. And when it was started, it was a nice idea with the bushes and the whole deal. But it's just sort of like, we're going to have like a 1985 scenario with the Ryder Cup to make it important.
Yeah. Alan, you hear Pharrell bring up the PGA Tour after such a blowout. Do you think the Tour steps in here again and tries to make some more changes before the 2019 matches in Melbourne?
It's good timing in that the Tour has a new commissioner in Jay Monahan, and he's kind of set himself up as this agent of change. And so, the President's Cup was Tim Fincham's baby, Monahan's predecessor. So it would be hard for Fincham to raise his hand and say, you know what, this sucks, we need to blow it up. He created it. I think Monahan can kind of come in and say, all right, let's take a fresh look at things. And I mean, a very simple solution, I think. I mean, obviously a lot of those on that list were kind of jokey, but you could make it a 3-day event like the Ryder Cup, make the team smaller, reduce the number of matches, and that would give the internationals a better chance because it just narrows the talent gap. You get to the depth of the U.S. team is really the difference. If you take the top 8 internationals against the top 8 Americans, they could keep it a little closer. But again, the tour builds the amount of hype and the ad campaigns and the social media onslaught. This is one of their showcase events. So do they want to downsize it? Do they want to shrink it? I don't think so. I think we're just kind of stuck with the President's Cup as it is, and we're going to have to readjust our expectations. Maybe there's a new wave of players who are being built in a lab somewhere in China or something like that. We can have an influx of young talent that will turn the tide. But I'm afraid we're just kind of stuck with the President's Cup. And if we all lower expectations far enough, then we won't be too disappointed. But the only easy solutions are
Yeah.
ones that the tour's going to reject, and so I don't know where we go from here, to be honest.
Yeah, it's almost like the internationals need more of a chance to hide some of the guys towards the bottom of their roster. Alan, no hiding Tiger Woods this past week. He was all over the place. We saw him. He spent the week as the assistant captain for the U.S. squad. In a press conference, Tiger said he can definitely see a scenario where he doesn't return to competitive golf. Pretty surprising hearing that frank comment coming from Tiger at this point. What do you think? He's been away from the course almost 2 years now. Does the game need him to come back, or are we all kind of moving on at this point?
No, not moving. We've moved on. I mean, it's past tense. It's happened. The game is in a great place with all these young stars, and I thought that was. I agree. It was surprising for Tiger to be candid. He has no history of that, but it was healthy. You know, he always set himself up as kind of the Terminator, right? He could never admit pain or weakness, and he could never be real about his body or his injuries or what he was struggling with. And I think that's part of where Tiger lost his way. You know, the public facade was so different than the private reality. And for Tiger to be candid and say, you know, I'm not sure I'm going to make it back. It's a tall mountain to climb. You know, I think that was a step in the right direction for him, just as a human being. I don't think he's ever going to play competitive golf again in a meaningful way. If he were to somehow come back and win a golf tournament, it would be the greatest accomplishment of his career. So that is how tall the mountain really is. So I think it's time to think of Tiger as an elder statesman, as an honorary figure, as a fun guy to have around at these team events and running his foundation and all these other things. But it's a shame it happened to him when he's in his early 40s instead of, you know, in his 70s when it should have. But that's just where Tiger is. I mean, he's strictly a ceremonial figure in my mind.
And Jeff, the point Alan makes, it seems like Tiger has embraced this role. Hearing him speak really opened my eyes to where he's at and you know, how honest he seems to be being with himself at this point.
I mean, the fact that he was willing to admit that at a press conference and that type of forum tells you that this is a reality and that he's starting to get there even himself, that this may be the end of the line. But I think this glimpse that we're getting of Tiger as elder statesman, it's not bad. He can still have a big impact on the game of golf. I mean, it's not just team events. His foundation can do a lot more with him fully engaged in it. And I just think that as one of the biggest stars, or probably the biggest star the game's ever known, there's a lot he can do to still help the game besides play golf and you know, especially if he has to play the way that he's played the last couple of years through injuries. No one wants to see that again.
Bro, what do you think? Are you buying it that Tiger's embraced this new role?
I don't think so. I think from an ego perspective, he can't handle it. Like watching him at the President's Cup, he reminded me of that like Matthew McConaughey character in Dazed and Confused, like just kind of hanging out, the big brother, kind of you take him seriously because he's got a little cachet with the women and he's been the guy. But I think he still wants to beat those guys. And I think, you know, Alan was saying like the ceremonial figure, he won't do the Arnold Palmer thing, God rest his soul, where he continues playing and can't hit the ball anywhere. But I think we'll see him play the Masters and the Open Championship and probably a smattering of other events, 5, 6, 8 events a year, I think.
Yeah, we'll see if we see him this coming season. As of now, he says he's hit the ball 60 yards. That's as far as it's gone. Alan, Pharrell, Jeff, thanks so much for being with us, guys. All right, coming up, Jessica Marksbury is going to sit down for a round with a member of the international team from the President's Cup, Adam Scott, to talk about getting older on tour and his 5-year plan for his game. But first, last week was the World Golf Hall of Fame induction, and we were there to capture the evening's events and ask, of course, the most important questions of the night. Take a look.
The International at Castle Pines?
Ooh, so I won the Golf Writers Association Player of the Year in 1991. I am correct. Ding dang.
That would have to be the Open Championship. Wow.
No idea, no idea. I have no idea how many top 10s I have in majors. Wow. I'm gonna say 18. 18? No, that's a miracle.
50 weeks. So 50 weeks of world number one, yeah. I'm doing all right.
Oh man, I probably started in about 65 majors. Higher? Oh geez, I don't know, 80 to 90 majors? 84 majors, that's it.
I've been ranked in the top 10 in the world more than 250 weeks. I told you I wouldn't be good at this.
If you watch the Masters every year, on the 16th hole, you'll see the players during the practice round skipping it across the lake and onto the green. It's really a fun shot to mess around with, and every once in a while, you may have something going on with your group, maybe got to settle a bet, and this is a great way to do it. Now, there's not a lot of practical use for this shot. Normally, in this situation, I would just take a wedge and I knock it up onto the green, but we want to show off on this shot. So we're going to hit a 4-iron here. And with the 4-iron, I'm trying to land the ball about 3/4 of the way across the lake, take 1 or 2 bounces and get to the other side. Now there's a couple tricks to this shot that you want to have. One, you kind of want to put the ball in the middle of the stance to guarantee that you get the ball first. The second is, I want to hit down on it to get the ball to go low. And then finally, I want to cut across it just a little bit, create a little bit of a cut or a slice spin. That'll help it skip off the water and get to the other side. So again, it's a great way to settle a bet. Not a practical shot, but this is a show-off shot. And if you pull it off in front of your friends, you'll be a hero.
Hi, I'm Jessica Marksbury for Golf.com here in New York City with Adam Scott, and we are going to enjoy a round of Sapporo beer together. Yay,
yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
All right, we're gonna pop the tops and everything right on camera. All right. One more cheers now that we have them open.
Exactly.
Thank you. I gave you a choice of what to drink. We decided on beer, and then we went with Japanese beer. So talk to me a little bit about your affinity for Japanese beer.
Well, I thought it might be a bit of a stretch to find an Aussie beer on call last minute in New York, but as I've gotten older, I've also found a taste for beer. I didn't really like it much when I was younger. Now I do, and yeah, the Japanese beer is really nice, so we went for that today.
Well, as I said, we're here in New York City. We're on a set at the moment where you've been doing a photo shoot for pretty much the entirety of the day. Does that ever get old for you? I mean, having your picture taken and doing video interviews, but you've been doing this for quite a long time.
Sure, I have, and I'm sure you've enjoyed getting me to do some funny stuff today that you wouldn't normally see me do. I think it's a fun part of the job. I don't do lots of it, so when I do it, it's enjoyable. It shows a little bit of a different side of the golfers when they do this, so hopefully everyone will enjoy that.
So you maintain a couple of residences around the world. Obviously you have ties in Australia, you're in Switzerland, you're in the Bahamas, and then you're around the United States on the PGA Tour. So how did you decide where to kind of create your home bases? Because I would say you chose pretty well, personally.
Somehow, yeah. Well, obviously I like spending time in Australia when I can, but that's not so easy when you're playing most of your golf in the Northern Hemisphere. It's a long way to travel back, and this wears on you after a while. And as I played the PGA Tour more and more, and then eventually now basing on the PGA Tour as my main tour, I had to move more towards the States, and timing worked out, and I just ended up in the Bahamas. But still, home is certainly Australia for me, and I'm pretty lucky I get to spend November, December and January back there most years.
Well, you have had an exceptionally long career even at this point, although you would still be considered, in my mind, one of the young guys on tour.
Well, thank you.
You must feel sometimes like one of the old guys, given the youth just coming up these days.
I definitely do now. It's horrible because I've hit that point where I played with John Rahm a couple of weeks ago, and he was telling me how he was in high school when I won the Masters or something. It wasn't that long ago. I mean, it's awful stuff like this. So I've hit that point where I am one of the older guys out there.
does it seem harder to win now than it was at the beginning of your career? I mean, I know winning a PGA Tour event is no easy task no matter what, but people love to talk about the fact that there just seems like there's so many guys that are capable of winning each week now, more so than ever before.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Maybe, but at the beginning of my career, there was this guy, Tiger Woods, who was in the prime of his career, and he played at an exceptional level every week, and it was really hard to beat him too. So it just seems like there's always been incredible competition. I mean, it's easy to forget because we live in just like this fast-paced world where everything is about now, and you know, if you're not there today, then you're forgotten about. But Tiger won in every 3 tournaments for a 10-year period that he played. To think about where all the young stars are at today and the expectation of what they'd have to do to live up to what Tiger did is not realistic at all. You have to be realistic as well, because I'm 37, you know. If I said I've got 5 more years to perform at the top level, I think that'd be fair to say. If you look at the way it's trending, it's getting harder and harder for over 40s to consistently compete at the top level. Of course, there are always exceptions. Hopefully I'll fit in that category, but you know, I really look at it as a 5-year window now for me to achieve everything I want and win all the tournaments I want and get what I want out of the game. And that's not really a long time, so I better get cracking on that. But it's inspiring to watch where these young guys are pushing it. And I think seeing Sergio win a major as one of the older guys this year, to not let the young guys take them all, was inspiring. And I think that'll push guys like myself and other older guys along to show these young guys that it's not all going to be their way.
Yeah, well, cheers to that, Adam. Thank you, and cheers to your growing family.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful to have around with you. Thank you so much.
No worries.
Golf is tough on your body, especially 18 holes over the weekend, and you don't play 5 days a week. So these are 3 great self-massaging tools that you should do post-round to help your body after your game.
So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to roll out our T-spine, or our upper back. After you spend all day on 18 holes, crouched over on every shot, rounded in that position, we want to open up that upper back a little bit. So Debbie's going to come here, and her forearms are going to be locked together. What she wants to do is feel like she's pulling her scaps out to expose that part of our upper back. And all she's going to do is you're going to go really slow and roll from just below the neck down to right about where the bottom of your shoulder blades are. So the second one we're going to do is we're going to open up our IT band. This is one of the areas that people are generally overactive already on, and it attaches up to some of the muscles of your hips, so those might be even more aggravated after 18 holes. So Debbie's going to come on the side here, and top leg is up here for a support point, and you're going to make sure that your hips are kind of rotated a little bit forward to make sure that you get on the IT band there, because people open up a little bit too much and they won't actually be on that part there. All you're gonna do is roll between just about where the ball will go in the socket of your hip down to just above your knee down here. The last one we're gonna do is the quads. All right, this is another area that people are generally a little bit overactive on no matter what. So you're gonna shift down to on your stomach here, leg up to 90-90 at your hip and your knees for a support point, and same spot we did for the IT band, between just above the hip down to just above the knee.
So these are 3 great post-round moves. Golf is hard on your body. It's important to work on your body not only pre-round, but post-round. We hit the quad, your IT band, and your upper back. Do these 3 every time you play, and you'll play better golf.
I'm here with John from Underwear for Men. John, is it one size fits all?
No, sir, not at all. Everybody's a little different, but some guys are a little bit bigger, some guys not so much.
How does this product work, and why would I want it?
Well, we have a patent. It's a drawstring support system, And this is the example right here where this drawstring comes down underneath and picks up your manhood so you're not chafing and you're not sticking to your thighs and keeps you comfortable. Great on the golf course.
Mm-hmm. Who among PGA Tour players do you think will be most likely to use underwear for men?
The guys.
What about the caddies?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Anybody who's on their feet all day would find this very helpful.
I'm all for that. Michael Bamberger from Golf.com, and today from Pitch and Run. John, you take the mic, because I'm taking the underwear.
Okay.
I'll see you later.
Take care.
All right, it's time now for our Golf Live pick segment. Ryan Asselta alongside Sean Zock. And whether you're ready or not, the start of the new season, it is here. Opening week 2017-18 PGA Tour season as they head west for the Safeway Open out in Napa, California. The wraparound season is going to kick off at the Silverado Resort, Sean. And Brendan Steele, your defending champion here. Who do you like in week one of the new season?
This one's a little off the wall, but I like Ches Reavie to start the season in good form because he ended last season in great form. The guy hasn't missed a cut since May. He's made the cut all 3 times he's played this course. I think he makes the cut again this week. He's made more birdies last year than he had in the previous years. It's all making sense for him.
A little outside the box. I like
Yeah,
it off the
little
top
bit.
here, Sean. I'm going with Kevin Na. This is a guy who loves Silverado. He lost in a playoff 2 years ago, finished 7th last year. Playing in good form right now as well, though. He had the T6 at the Dell. He shot a low round of 63 at the BMW in the final round. Playing some good golf. Horse for the course. I like that pairing right there. I like Kevin Na a lot this week. How about a value pick? Guy, middle of the field, middle of the road here that you expect to do well.
Yeah, one of the most consistent players and quietly consistent on tour is a guy named Martin Laird. He doesn't make a ton of birdies, but he also doesn't miss a lot of cuts. The guy is going to give you consistency. And I think when you make a fantasy team, you're not going to get 6 guys that are all horses. He's contended here in the past, 2 top 10s the last 3 years. He's going to be consistent there this week, and I think he probably makes a cut, maybe top 20 from him. That'd be a good value.
All right, I'm going with Jamie Lovemark as my value pick, a California guy. He's played well here as well. He had a great round going, great tournament going 2 years ago. He was in place to win, and he blew up on Sunday with a round in the high 70s. Had a good showing last year, though. T20 at the Safeway in 2016. It's a guy who can score, too. He's 14th on tour in Eagles, top 50 in scoring average and birdies. This is a course that traditionally can yield some low rounds. I like the California kid, Jamie Lovemark, to do well this week. How about a guy, Sean, you're staying away from? Hands off this week out in Napa.
Yeah, well, it's not a huge field with a bunch of big guys, but of the major winners in this field, Webb Simpson's one that I just don't expect a lot from. It would make a lot of sense for him to play well here. It's kind of a ball striker's course. It's not a bomber's course. So Webb Simpson, great ball striker, should make sense. But in his 2 times playing this course, 0 made cuts. He's only made 10 birdies there in 4 rounds. So he's not playing his normal golf there. Something just doesn't work with him at Silverado. So I'd say stay away from him.
All right, no go on Webb. I'm saying no go on Phil Mickelson. This is a guy who I think is coming off the President's Cup. He enjoyed the week. He had a big role. A big role in the partying, I'm sure. I think he's got the President's Cup hangover. I'm actually surprised he's playing this week. He played last week, did very well. He had a top 10 last year at the Safeway, so he could prove me wrong. But I kind of think Phil's going to be more interested in sipping wine out in Napa rather than hitting golf balls. I'm saying stay away from Phil Mickelson. Sean, thanks. The Safeway gets underway on Thursday out in Napa. And that's going to do it for this week's edition of Golf Live. We will be back with you next week. Same place, same time on Tuesday as we catch up with Hall of Famer Freddie Couples. Until then, though, stay with Golf.com for all the latest in the golf world. And be sure to follow us on social media, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. We'll see you next week right here, noon Eastern on Golf.com. Have a good day.